once you send it to an employer, it makes it easier to find if you say that, like, my name's Olivia, so I would say, like, Olivia's resume for whatever company or something like that where it can be identified. So yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to what Olivia just said, you want to make sure you save it as a PDF. And so that's something you can do if you create your resume in Word. There's an option under Files to export as PDF. It'll say something like that. But the reason we want to do that is because, let's say I have a Linux, and so I make my resume on my Linux computer. If I were to send that as the document version to an employer who might have a Mac or something like that, a different word processing program, then it could mess up the entire formatting when they get the resume. So that's why when you save it as a PDF, it won't mess with the formatting. Does that make sense? All right, so we've done the general overview of what we're going to talk about, and we're about to transition into the individual parts of your resume. But first we want to get a little, get a view of what all you know already, just so we know what to focus on throughout the presentation. So we're going to do a survey on a app called Kahoot. It's not an app, it's a website. So if you'll go to kahoot.it, it's kahoot.it, and we're about to do a little survey. It's only 5 questions. Soon a little PIN number is going to pop up on the screen, and then once you go to kahoot.it, it should say enter PIN, and you'll just enter in what's going to be on the screen. We'll just take a little moment while everyone's logging in, and I'll check back and see what everyone's done. Who said dinner? Do you want some candy? Is anyone still logging in? We need some more time. Okay, we'll give you a second.
Has anyone thought of any questions in the meantime?
I would just like to look at someone that if you don't have a GPA that's over 3.0, that you shouldn't put it on your resume.
Right.
That's correct.
You can also, we'll talk about this later, but you can also shape it in a way that sounds good news. So you didn't do so well your freshman year or something. You can say, I have like 3.4 since my sophomore year or something like that. So maybe frame it so that you show that you know, like this.
Yeah, that's another question. Like how often do you keep your GPA on the wrapper?
You can, I don't know if Mary and Ben have insight into that question, because we're still in college, but I've seen professors who still have their GPA on their CVs and resumes, but I don't know if you should take it off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm technically still in school too, but it all depends on, I think, the industry and what you want to do. If you're going to stick in academics, you might want to include that because it's really relevant. But after that first job, it might not be as important, and the experience that you gain from that first job. So it depends, I think. The further you get away from college, the less important it probably is.
Alright, so if y'all were here last week, you probably know a little bit about Kahoot, but what's going to happen is there will be a little question that pops up, and you'll have about 20 seconds to answer it. So it's just to get a gauge on where y'all are at, so we know what to focus on. All right, is anyone else still waiting? All right, so first question. As Veronica mentioned, when you're putting your GPA on your resume, what are some general guidelines to follow? All right, so the answer here is all of the above are true. And again, we're going to go into more detail about all of these later on. But if your overall GPA is above a 3.0, you can definitely put that on there. If your major GPA is higher than your overall GPA, and especially if your overall GPA is below a 3.0 but your major is above it, you can say my major GPA is 3.4. And then as William was saying earlier, if you had a rough start to college, you can put my GPA is 3.4 since August 2014 or something like that. So any questions about that question? Yeah.
One question, I just transferred here, so I don't
Yeah.
have GPA for this school, so how
Right.
would I go about that?
Right, so I'm actually a transfer student too. So what I did is, while I was still like fresh at NC State, I went to Appalachian my first year, so I kept that on there and the GPA I had that year. And then as more time goes by while you're at NC State, so once it's your last year, you can usually stick to just putting your NC State GPA since that'll be most relevant to the job. But if you don't have a GPA year yet, really then, or even if last semester was your first semester, I would put both for now. And then as you progress through your college career here, I would change it to just NC State. Does that make sense? Thank you. All right, so are there any questions about that one? Yeah.
So with her question, because I'm also a transfer student.
Okay.
Because my first semester was here was a little lower than what my old GPA was. So
Yeah.
can you put 2 GPAs on a resume?
You can, I've seen it. So it's an option if you want to put both GPAs. If you want to list both academic institutions you're at, you can list them both. I think it's all about what you think would stand out most to the employer. But do you two want to add anything to it, Ben and Mary?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be honest when you do that, and
Yeah.
you can't leave it out just to leave it out because it's not good. But especially if your early grade was bad and then what you've received since then is good, you can tell a story there and say, I've improved, I've gotten better, I've learned some things. So you can spin that from maybe a negative thing into a positive thing.
As long as you label it appropriately, I think it should be fine.
All right. Next question. So which of the following is better to include on your resume and why? So would you want to put, and this is right under your header, so would you want to put a professional summary, or would you want to write an objective as to why you're seeking that job? All right, so both are good. So, but we tend to emphasize. It used to be either one is fine, but lately we've just been starting to emphasize using a professional summary. And again, we'll get into that a little bit later. But a summary is all about what I can offer you, and it kind of shows this mission to help the company. And an objective can sometimes be viewed as this is what I want to get out of you. So that's where a summary can be a little more useful. When we talk about tips for writing your summary and why that's useful using a job description. Next question. So what do you write in a professional summary? What do you include in there? Do you do all of your accomplishments throughout your time here at NC State? Do you do the characteristics about you that align with the job description? Or is it just the most recent accomplishments during your time here? All right, yeah. So the answer there is the characteristics about you that align with that job description. So a thing we're going to keep reiterating throughout this presentation is the use of the job description in the resume. So if there's one thing you get from this presentation, it's that job description will be your foundation you're writing your resume. Right? So when you have different sections on your resume, how do you go about organizing those in terms of like your education, your experience, your skills? Do you do it alphabetically? Do you do it most relevant? Maybe the order doesn't matter, or maybe there's a specific order you're supposed to use. Yeah, so we talked a little bit already about tailoring your resume to a specific job, and that's where you want to say, maybe my volunteer work matters more to this job, or maybe my technical skills matter more. And that's something we'll talk about a little later too. All right, the last question. So when you have your experiences section, you're talking about the different jobs you've had. Which of these did you try to not put in there? Alright, so this is something that's a good tip to remember, is that, and again we'll talk about this later, but you want to talk about your accomplishments at a job. So you want to go beyond the job description, talk about what you accomplished. You want to use action verbs, which we'll talk about what those are later. And then you want to quantify. So instead of saying I managed the cash register in high school, I can say I managed $1,000 on average on a daily basis. All right. And that is it. So we're going to switch back. Thank you all for participating. While we're waiting, is there anything that surprised you or that you didn't know before? Things that you might, yeah.
Like modified job description, like I'm using like a different job description for every place you apply for.
Yeah,
So
so,
like a professional summary, sorry, like a different professional summary for each thing that you apply for.
yeah. So, the professional summary is usually 1 to 2 sentences, and that's where, and we're gonna have a slide on here later on, but how the job description is gonna help you pick out what you want to